a use of force expert who has watched the videos, is helping to break down what we know so far.
The police officers' actions are going to be judged based upon this idea. Would a different police officer have acted in the same manner, or a reasonable police officer acted in the same manner?
26-year-old Patrick Lyoya was shot and killed by a Grand Rapids police officer on Monday, April 4th, after a traffic stop near Griggs and Nelson. The following Wednesday, the department released 4 videos showing the deadly shooting and the tense moments leading up to it.
Hey, stay in the car! Stay in the car!
Nelson and Griggs.
It's not clear when Michigan State Police will complete their investigation into what happened and whether the officer's actions were legally justified.
Get in the car! Dude, I'm stopping you. You have a license?
Dennis Savard, associate professor at Saginaw Valley and a forensic criminology consultant, is not part of that investigation, but has watched the videos so far released and notes the confusion in Patrick's voice in their interaction.
There could have been a cultural misunderstanding between the victim and the police officer.
Do you have a driver's license? Do you speak English?
Yes.
That can exacerbate a situation or make it worse.
After a few seconds, Lyoya begins walking away from the officer. From there, the situation devolves further.
1915, you got one running. Northbound. Stop!
Here, the officer strikes Lyoya several times.
Certain types of strikes by a police officer can be reasonable. However, they have to be proportionate to the threat that the police officer is facing.
At this point, it seems clear Patrick is unarmed, but as the officer attempts to deploy his taser, there is a struggle over the device.
Tasers are not a deadly weapon. They're considered a less than lethal weapon. However, at the same time, a taser can incapacitate an individual, at least momentarily.
The officer eventually gets on top of Lyoya, pinning him to the ground.
In the video, you can hear the police officer saying, drop the weapon, or drop the taser, put down the taser.
Let go of the taser!
Possible that the police officer was fearful that the taser was going to be used on him, or could have been used on him to incapacitate him. And then it could evolve from there, I suppose.
Whatever the officer was thinking, he pulls his handgun at this point and shoots him once in the head, killing him.
1915, I was just involved in shooting.
Now, we also checked GRPD's Manual of Procedures, specifically for firearms. Under deadly force applications, it says that officers can discharge a firearm to defend against a reasonable threat or of death or serious bodily injury, also to prevent the escape of a subject who is fleeing from an inherently violent felony crime when the officer has probable cause to believe that the subject poses a reasonable threat of death or serious bodily injury to the officer or others. But it also outlines the department's goal of only using a reasonable amount of force. Of course, that determination will be left in the hands of Michigan State Police. For now, reporting live in the newsroom, Michael Martin, Fox 17 News.
Hey, yo, what up, my 1751 family? I'd like to thank you all for tuning in, man. For those of you who have already smashed and subscribed, I'd like to take my hat off to y'all, man. I'd like to thank you all for your unwavering support. It means so much to me, man. And for those of you who have yet to subscribe to this channel, but you enjoy watching these videos, go on ahead and take a second to go over and smash and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification while you're at it. Okay, now getting into it, man. Today we're gonna be reviewing an unfortunate situation that occurred, with a young brother by the name of Patrick Lyoya. Now, these situations never, they never get old, man. It's always a refreshment. Another situation that resembles, this situation that I'm about to show you. Okay. Now, this situation started with a simple traffic stop. A simple traffic stop in which our brother Patrick Lyoya was in a rather small sized vehicle, He was pulled over, which he pulled over, you know, and as the officer approached the vehicle, our brother Patrick Lyoya exited the vehicle, right? Which you see a lot with white folk. You know, white folk get pulled over, they get out the car, they, you know, a lot of times they walk back to the police officer's car before the officer even exit his vehicle. And they, you know, they're complaining and, you know, telling the officer off and, you know, just the privilege, right? But here you're gonna see our brother Patrick Lyoya. He gets pulled over. He gets out of the vehicle. He stands by his vehicle. Officer gets out, approached Mr. Lyoya, and Lyoya, you know, he's kind of agitated. You know, he's slightly bothered, and looking for answers. You know, he wants to know why he was pulled over, in which the officer informed him that I'm pulling you over because the plates doesn't match the vehicle, right? So, officer has a right to pull him over, right? Up until this point, officer is well within his right to pull his brother over, right? Still, it's a traffic violation, not a criminal act, right? Officer interacts with his brother back and forth, whatever. He asks the brother for his information, and as you can see, the brother was kind of seemed as if he was having a hard time understanding what the officer was asking him. And the officer asked the brother, "Do you speak English?" And he said, "Yeah." Right? The officer then tried to go in for the brother, I'm guessing to place him in cuffs. You know why? So that he can continue to finish conducting his investigation of this vehicle, right? But as this officer went in to grab his brother, the brother kind of pulled off and broke away from the officer, in which the officer gave chase at that moment.
Put your hands right. Stop. 1915. You got one running. Northbound. Stop. Stop.
Okay. Dang.
Stop. Stop.
Okay.
Get your hands behind your back.
Okay.
Hands behind your back.
Okay.
Right. Once the officer caught up with his brother, the officer jumped on his back. The brother gave a little wrestle. They fall to the ground. Right. At this point, officer is having a very hard time trying to subdue this brother. You know, you see this a lot, man. You see this a lot. And that's why a lot of times they view us black men as animals, because we have a certain God-given strength that they just don't understand. The average black man has a certain strength that white men just don't. They still have yet to understand how. Why are we so strong? You know, why is it always a hard time trying to subdue a black man? You know, trying to arrest a black man when he's refusing to go down, right? But as you can see here, man, like you see a lot in other situations that resemble this situation, right? You see the officer struggling with his brother. They struggle on the lawn of somebody's property, and the officer, if you were paying attention, the officer he realizes he's not gonna be able to get this guy. He's not gonna be able to get the cuffs on this guy, you know, before he end up running out of energy, right? So the officer gives up fight. He gives up wrestle. He stays on the brother's back, And as you can see at one point, he even needed the brother. He was so frustrated. He was so frustrated with himself that he couldn't, that he couldn't subdue his brother, that he couldn't arrest his brother. He was so frustrated with himself that he was, as a grown man, he was getting overpowered. His ego was hurt, which led to him needing the brother. He needed the brother in the torso a few times, right? Brother almost breaks away again. They lead. There are also onlookers. There's another person in the vehicle who was with the brother Lyoya, and there was another guy who comes out the house, which says in the video, I'm a black man too, and you don't got to do all this, but your brother Lyoya was resisting arrest. So regardless of what anybody onlookers had to say, up until the point that officer used deadly force, he was well within his right to go about the situation in the way he was. Let me say, other than needing a brother and using deadly force. Let me reframe that. Needing a brother and using deadly force was the two mistakes that officer made during this altercation, right? Now, Patrick Lyoya continued to wrestle, and they end up on another lawn. He kind of broke away for a second time, and they ended up on another lawn where the officer then pulled a taser out, and he attempted to shoot our brother Lyoya with the taser. But Lyoya took it upon himself to grab the taser and kind of aim it away from himself so that the officer couldn't get a good aim and a good shot, with that taser. As a result, the officer ends up somehow getting on Lyoya's back, and they eventually fall to the ground. Once the officer realized that this is a fight that he's likely not going to win, and he's feeling very embarrassed. His ego is broken. As a grown man, his ego is broken. As you can see, he called in to radio for more units to come help. Which he probably should have did from the beginning, right? But he called for more units to arrive, and before those units even had a chance to arrive to give him some backup, this brother, this officer realized that the situation wasn't headed towards an outcome that he would have liked, or that he expected. This brother was likely going to get away because this officer was running out of energy. He was getting weak. All that wrestling, because as you can see, our brother Lyoya, man, he wasn't a small guy. He was football athletic, football player size. So tackling a big guy like that, man, it's not going to be an easy task, right? And this officer felt that out. And as a result, man, the officer, when he realized that he wasn't going to be able to, he wasn't going to be successful in getting those cuffs on that brother, this officer took it upon himself to then go for the service pistol, the firearm, the deadly firearm, not the taser. The taser, he wasn't able to get the taser. He wasn't able to be successful with, stinging this brother with the taser. So he got frustrated, and his ego was so broken that he took it upon himself to grab that firearm, while he was on top of our brother Lyoya. And not even 3 seconds from pulling that firearm off his waist, he put a bullet in the back of our brother Lyoya's head, and ended his life, man. Put him out of his misery. As onlookers, were just stunned, man, by what they saw, man. This officer, he pulled that trigger within 3 seconds of pulling it, removing it from the holster. And he blew our brother's brains out. Now, this officer was brung forth, of course, he's had a trial in which he picked a jury. And that trial was ended in a hung jury. Right? They couldn't come to a decision. And I'm going to push for a retrial because it's likely going to get the same outcome. They couldn't come to a decision as to whether this officer was guilty. But it was said within the trial that a reasonable officer wouldn't have fired that service firearm. A reasonable officer wouldn't have chose those actions that this officer chose. That says a lot, man. That's saying that he's not a reasonable officer, man. He downright went overboard, man, and exercised deadly force on an undeadly situation. On a brother who was not a threat, a brother who did not reach for the firearm, a brother who was unarmed himself, didn't have any weapons on him. But as you can see, this brother ended up getting tragically shot down, man. Bullet to the back of the head. Another black brother being lynched as onlookers watched by another young white, more than likely, racist officer. Now, these situations, man, they are not unique. These situations happen all over America, man. All the time, man. This is nothing new. This is just a refreshment. This is just a reminder to Black America, man, that this problem still exists, and that it hasn't went anywhere, man. From Philando Castile, from Breonna Taylor to Michael Brown to Mayor Rice. I can go on and on, man. Too many of our black people, man, has been gunned down at the hands of these young, white, racist police officers who shouldn't even be on the force in the first place. These people have real issues, man. They don't belong in policing, in any department. These people, they are the scums of the earth, man. They do these things, man, because they understand that, qualified immunity will back them. All they have to do is say, stop resisting. Like I said in one of my other videos, I believe that there is something within their training which they're all on code, that all these police officers are told that if you feel like you need to shoot someone and you may kill a person, always on a camera, because the camera will obviously be rolling, make sure that you say, stop resisting, or he's got a gun. Say something that can back you up in the future when you have to face, a judge for the situation. Say something to set up a win for yourself in a court of law. So you will always hear an officer before they commit an act such as this one here. You will always hear them say, stop resisting, or don't reach for the gun, or he's got a gun, or something to that nature. So that they can have an argument that they fear for their life in a moment, right? So I'm going to continue to follow this case, man. This is new to me. I just watched the video, and these situations always they turn my stomach, man, because I'm a black man, and I have black family members, man, who are good, upstanding black men. But a lot of times, man, we're up against the same thing that many black folks has been up against before tragically being gunned down. You know, having to face a white officer that is not looking to do his job correctly and operate within the law. You know, as a black man, I understand that this is a regular occurrence. This happens on a regular to black men all over America, man. And until we come together and figure out a way to combat these type of issues, man, they're going to continue to happen. They're going to continue to happen. These officers are going to continue to cry. They fear for their life, you know, and get off. Anyway, man, until next time, it's your boy, Mr. 1751, bringing you another 1751 review. And until next video, y'all stay up. Hey, if you enjoy watching videos like these, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. Help your boy get into the algorithm so that I can continue to bring you more videos just like the one you just watched. Anyway, until next time, y'all stay up.
Let go of the taser.
Possible that the police officer was fearful that the taser was going to be used on him or could have been used on him to incapacitate him. And then it could evolve from there, I suppose.
Whatever the officer was thinking, he pulls his handgun at this point and shoots him once in the head, killing him.
1915, I was just involved in shooting